The hardest part of being a parent is pretending everything is fine when you know it is not. Sarah Mitchell stared at the screen of her banking app and felt her chest tighten. $40.62. That was all she had left until her next paycheck, and payday was still 6 days away. She looked at the number again, hoping somehow it would change. It did not. $40.62. Across the small apartment, her 8-year-old daughter Chloe sat at the kitchen table finishing a homework assignment, completely unaware of the calculations running through her mother's mind. Rent was due next week. The electric bill sat unopened on the counter because Sarah already knew what it would say. Her old sedan needed repairs she could not afford. Every month felt like a balancing act performed on a wire stretched over uncertainty. Yet every morning she woke up and kept going because Chloe depended on her. "Mom, can I bring cupcakes for school on Friday?" Chloe asked. Sarah forced a smile. "Maybe. Let me see what I can do." Chloe nodded happily and returned to coloring a picture beside her homework. Sarah hated those moments. Not because Chloe asked for much. Quite the opposite. Her daughter rarely asked for anything. That somehow made it harder. After finishing breakfast, Sarah cleaned the dishes and prepared for another shift at the grocery store where she worked as a cashier. The hours were inconsistent, and the pay barely covered necessities, but it was what she had. As she grabbed her purse, her phone buzzed with a payment reminder. Another bill. Another deadline. Another problem waiting in line behind all the others. By early afternoon, her shift ended sooner than expected because business was slow. Fewer hours meant less money. Sarah tried not to think about it as she walked through the town square on her way home. The autumn air carried a chill, and golden leaves drifted across the sidewalks. Families passed by carrying shopping bags. Children laughed near the fountain in the center of the park. Sarah watched them for a moment, wishing life felt that simple. She checked her wallet. $40.62 still had to last nearly a week. Every purchase mattered now. As she crossed toward a small convenience store, she noticed a young boy sitting alone on a bench near the playground. At first, she assumed a parent was nearby, but something about the scene felt strange. The boy looked no older than 7. He wore clean clothes and expensive-looking sneakers, yet there was no adult in sight. More unusual was the expression on his face. He was not playing. He was not exploring. He looked worried. Sarah slowed her pace. People continued walking past him without stopping. The boy glanced around as if searching for someone who never appeared. Sarah hesitated. She had her own problems. More than enough of them. Yet as she watched the child sitting there alone, a feeling settled in her heart that she could not ignore. She had no idea that the simple decision she was about to make would change the course of her life forever. Sarah stood still for several seconds, watching the boy from across the park. Children his age were usually running around the playground or talking with friends. This boy sat quietly on the bench, his hands folded in his lap as he looked from one passing stranger to another. The longer she watched, the more concerned she became. Finally, she walked over. "Hey there," she said gently. "Are you okay?" The boy looked up. He had neatly combed brown hair and bright blue eyes, but there was obvious worry on his face. "I think so," he answered softly. "I just cannot find my dad." Sarah's heart sank. "How long have you been here?" The boy shrugged. "I do not know. A while." Sarah sat down on the opposite end of the bench to avoid startling him. "What is your name?" "Noah." "I am Sarah." She offered a reassuring smile. "Do you know your father's phone number?" Noah looked down at his shoes. "No." "Do you know where you live?" "Not exactly." Sarah tried not to show her concern. The situation was becoming more serious than she first thought. "Did you get separated from him?" Noah nodded. "We were walking near some stores. I saw something and stopped for a second. Then I could not find him anymore." Sarah glanced around the park. Nobody appeared to be searching nearby. "Have you told anyone?" "I asked a man, but he said I should stay where I was." Noah looked embarrassed. "I tried." Sarah immediately felt sympathy for him. He was clearly trying to be brave. "You did the right thing." Noah offered a small nod. A cool breeze moved through the trees. Sarah checked the time. Nearly an hour had passed since she first noticed him. She could not simply walk away. "Are you hungry?" she asked. Noah hesitated before quietly saying, "A little." Sarah looked toward the convenience store across the street. $40.62. Every dollar mattered. Yet she could hardly leave a hungry child sitting alone. "Come on," she said. "Let us get a snack while we figure this out." A few minutes later they sat at a small table inside the store. Noah carefully ate a sandwich and drank a bottle of water while Sarah considered her options. The boy thanked her 3 separate times, which struck her as unusual for someone so young. "You are very polite," she said. Noah smiled faintly. "My dad says manners matter." Sarah found herself smiling back. Despite being lost, he remained calm and respectful. There was something about him that immediately inspired trust. After finishing his food, Noah glanced out the window. "Do you think my dad is worried?" The question broke Sarah's heart. "I think he is probably looking everywhere for you." Noah looked relieved by the answer. Sarah hoped it was true. What she did not know was that far beyond the small town, a search was already underway, and dozens of people were desperately trying to find the little boy sitting across from her. After Noah finished eating, Sarah decided she could not leave him sitting in a convenience store indefinitely. She called the local non-emergency police number and explained the situation. The dispatcher thanked her and said officers were checking reports of missing children, but so far nothing had appeared in their system. That surprised Sarah. She had assumed a worried parent would have contacted authorities immediately. "What happens now?" Noah asked as she ended the call. "For now, we keep trying to find your family," Sarah said. "Do you remember anything that could help? Maybe a phone number, an address, or the name of the hotel where you were staying?" Noah thought for a moment. "I know we are not from here. That helps a little. And my dad has a lot of meetings." Sarah smiled. "That narrows it down to about half the adults in America." Noah laughed softly for the first time since she had met him. The sound made Sarah feel unexpectedly relieved. He was beginning to relax. Since there was no immediate update from authorities, Sarah decided to take Noah home temporarily while they waited for more information. She called Chloe from the car before arriving. "I am bringing someone with me," she said. "Who?" Chloe asked excitedly. "A little boy who needs some help." When they reached the apartment, Chloe opened the door before Sarah even found her keys. The moment she saw Noah, her curiosity took over. "Hi, I am Chloe." "Hi, I am Noah." Within minutes, the 2 children were sitting on the living room floor talking as though they had known each other for weeks. Sarah watched them from the kitchen while preparing grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner. She could not help noticing how well-mannered Noah was. Every request included a please. Every thank you sounded sincere. When Chloe accidentally dropped a box of crayons, Noah immediately helped pick them up without being asked. "Your son is very polite," a neighbor might have said if they walked in. The strange thought made Sarah smile. As dinner continued, Noah shared small details about his life. He talked about traveling often. He mentioned staying in large hotels. He casually referenced places like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco as if they were regular weekend destinations. None of it matched the life Sarah knew. "You have been to a lot of places," she said. Noah nodded. "My dad works a lot." There was a hint of sadness in his voice. "Do you like traveling?" Sarah asked. Noah shrugged. "Sometimes. But I like when he is home." That answer lingered in Sarah's mind. Later that evening, while Chloe showed Noah her favorite books, Sarah noticed something else unusual. Noah's backpack sat open beside the couch. Inside was a neatly folded jacket with a designer label she recognized from a magazine advertisement. The price of one jacket probably exceeded her monthly grocery budget. Sarah frowned slightly. The mystery surrounding Noah was growing. He seemed like an ordinary little boy in many ways, yet small clues kept suggesting something different. And somewhere beyond their apartment walls, people were still searching for him, though neither Sarah nor Noah had any idea just how many people were involved. The evening passed more smoothly than Sarah expected. Chloe and Noah quickly became friends, building imaginary cities from old cardboard boxes and coloring pictures at the kitchen table while Sarah prepared dinner. Watching them together brought an unexpected warmth to the apartment. For a few hours, Noah seemed less like a frightened child who had lost his father and more like an ordinary 7-year-old enjoying a normal afternoon. Yet the mystery surrounding him continued to grow. During dinner, Noah casually mentioned things that made Sarah pause. "My dad says airplanes are the easiest way to waste time," he said while eating his sandwich. Sarah laughed. "Most people would be excited to fly places." Noah shrugged. "I fly a lot." Chloe's eyes widened. "How much is a lot?" Noah thought for a moment. "Maybe every week." Sarah nearly dropped her fork. Most children his age considered a road trip exciting. Weekly flights were another world entirely. Later, while helping the children clean up after dinner, Sarah overheard another unusual conversation. "What does your dad do?" Chloe asked. Noah considered the question. He goes to meetings. My mom works at a grocery store. Noah nodded politely. My dad goes to meetings all day. Sarah smiled. That seemed like a child's simplified explanation, but something about it felt significant. As the evening continued, Sarah received another call from the local police department. Unfortunately, they still had no matching missing child report. That fact worried her even more than before. She thanked the officer and ended the call. Noah immediately looked concerned. Did they find my dad? Sarah forced a reassuring smile. Not yet, but they are still looking. Noah nodded bravely, though disappointment flashed across his face. Sarah could only imagine how frightened he must feel beneath that calm exterior. Before bedtime, Chloe insisted on showing Noah her favorite collection of storybooks. The two children sat together on the couch turning pages, while Sarah folded laundry nearby. At one point, Noah stopped at a picture of a large city skyline. I have been there, he said. Which city is that? Chloe asked. New York. Sarah looked up. You have visited New York? Noah nodded. A lot. A few minutes later, he pointed to another picture. And Chicago. Then another. And Los Angeles. Sarah exchanged a puzzled glance with Chloe. Most adults she knew had not traveled that extensively. As bedtime approached, Sarah prepared a sleeping area for Noah in the living room. He thanked her several times. You do not have to keep saying thank you, she said gently. Noah smiled. My dad says people should always appreciate help. Sarah turned off the lamp and wished him good night. Later, after both children were asleep, she sat alone at the kitchen table reviewing everything she had learned. Expensive clothes, frequent travel, exceptional manners, a father who attended endless meetings. None of it fit together completely, but it pointed toward one conclusion. Noah came from a life very different from hers. What Sarah did not realize was that by the next day, clues about his identity would begin appearing in places she never expected, bringing her closer to the truth than she could imagine. Sarah woke up early the next morning and immediately remembered that a lost child was sleeping in her living room. For a moment, she wondered if the previous day had been some strange dream, but when she stepped quietly into the hallway, she found Noah already awake, sitting on the couch reading one of Chloe's books. Good morning, she said. Noah smiled politely. Good morning. A few minutes later, Chloe joined them, and the apartment filled with the familiar sounds of children talking and laughing. Despite the unusual circumstances, Noah seemed more relaxed than he had the day before. Sarah prepared a simple breakfast of toast and scrambled eggs while trying to decide what to do. Next, after breakfast, she called the police department again. There was still no official update. However, one officer mentioned something interesting. We have received information from neighboring counties asking about a missing child, he explained. The details are limited, but we are looking into it. Sarah thanked him and ended the call. Her curiosity immediately grew. A missing child search that crossed county lines sounded far more serious than she had imagined. Later that morning, while Chloe and Noah worked on a puzzle at the kitchen table, Sarah turned on the television to a local news station. She was not paying much attention at first. Then a headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen caught her eye. Authorities were searching for a missing child believed to be traveling through the region. The report contained very few details. No name, no photograph, just a brief mention that multiple agencies and private teams were involved. Sarah felt a chill. Private teams. That was unusual. She glanced toward Noah. He remained focused on the puzzle, completely unaware of the report. As the day continued, more clues appeared. While helping Noah organize the contents of his backpack, Sarah discovered a luggage tag attached to a side pocket. Most of the information had been smudged, but one detail remained readable. The name of an exclusive hotel chain she had only heard about in television commercials. Another piece of the puzzle. Another sign that Noah came from a world she knew nothing about. That afternoon, Sarah took the children to a nearby park for fresh air. While Chloe and Noah played on the swings, Sarah sat on a bench watching them. Everything seemed peaceful until two black SUVs slowly drove down the street bordering the park. The vehicles moved carefully, almost as though the occupants were searching for something. Sarah watched as they circled the block before disappearing from view. Minutes later, one of the drivers returned on foot and quietly showed a photograph to a park employee near the entrance. Sarah could not see the picture clearly, but her instincts immediately told her it involved Noah. The realization sent her pulse racing. Whoever was looking for him was investing significant resources into the search. This was no ordinary missing child case. As she looked toward Noah laughing beside Chloe, Sarah realized she was standing much closer to the truth than ever before. What she still did not know was that within the next 24 hours, she would uncover a secret that would completely change her understanding of the little boy she had chosen to help. That evening, after returning from the park, Sarah could not stop thinking about the black SUVs. The image stayed in her mind while she prepared dinner and listened to Chloe and Noah talking in the living room. Everything about the search felt unusual. Most missing child cases involved worried parents, local police officers, and community volunteers. This felt different. Organized. Quiet. Professional. After dinner, Noah helped clear the table without being asked. Then he carefully stacked the dishes beside the sink. "You do not have to do that," Sarah said. Noah smiled. "My dad says everyone should help." Again, there was that brief mention of his father. Sarah found herself wondering more and more about the man she had never met. Later that night, while the children watched a family movie, Sarah sat nearby scrolling through local news on her phone. She hoped to find more information about the missing child report mentioned earlier. Most articles contained very few details. Then one headline caught her attention. It discussed a major business conference that had taken place less than 50 miles away. Hundreds of executives and corporate leaders had attended. Sarah almost ignored it until she noticed a photograph attached to the article. Several well-dressed men stood outside a convention center speaking to reporters. In the background, partially visible near one of the vehicles, was a young boy. Sarah leaned closer. Her heart skipped. The child looked remarkably similar to Noah. The image was small and blurry, but the resemblance was difficult to ignore. She enlarged the photograph. The boy's hair, his height, even the jacket looked familiar. Sarah stared at the screen. Suddenly a possibility entered her mind. What if Noah's father was connected to that conference? What if all those meetings he mentioned were not ordinary business meetings at all? The idea seemed almost ridiculous, yet it explained several things. The frequent travel, the luxury hotels, the private search teams. Before she could think further, Noah walked into the kitchen. "What are you looking at?" he asked. Sarah quickly locked her phone. "Nothing important." Noah nodded and climbed onto a chair. For a moment, he seemed unusually quiet. "Do you think my dad is mad at me?" he asked softly. Sarah immediately put down her phone. "No. Why would you think that?" Noah stared at the table. "Because I got lost." Sarah's heart ached. She moved closer and gently reassured him. "I think your father is probably worried, not angry." Noah looked relieved. Really? Really?" He smiled and returned to the living room. Sarah watched him go. Whatever mystery surrounded him, he was still just a little boy who missed his father. The next morning would bring even more answers. Unbeknownst to Sarah, someone had finally connected key pieces of information. By this time tomorrow, she would learn that Noah belonged to one of the most influential families in the country, though she still had no idea how extraordinary the truth would be. The following morning began quietly. Sarah was making coffee while Chloe and Noah sat at the kitchen table drawing pictures when a knock sounded at the apartment door. It was not unusual for neighbors to stop by, but something about the knock felt different. Calm. Deliberate. Sarah walked to the door and opened it. Standing outside was a tall man in a dark suit accompanied by another professionally dressed individual. Both appeared relieved the moment they saw Noah through the doorway. Before Sarah could say anything, Noah jumped from his chair. "Dad!" he shouted. The boy raced across the apartment and threw his arms around the taller man. The man immediately knelt and embraced him tightly. Relief washed across his face in a way that needed no explanation. For several moments, neither seemed willing to let go. Sarah watched quietly, feeling both happy and emotional. Noah had finally been reunited with his father. "I was looking everywhere for you," the man said softly. "I know," Noah replied. "I am sorry." The man smiled and gently touched his son's shoulder. "The important thing is that you are safe." He then stood and turned toward Sarah. "You must be Sarah Mitchell." She nodded. "And you are Noah's father." "Ryan Parker," he said, extending his hand. "I do not have words to express how grateful I am." Sarah shook his hand. Even before learning anything else, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. He looked like someone who had not slept much during the past 2 days. Yet there was also genuine warmth in the way he spoke. "He was very brave," Sarah said, "and very polite." Ryan smiled. "That sounds like Noah." While father and son talked, the second man quietly thanked Sarah as well. Something about his formal manner suggested he was more than a friend. Perhaps an assistant. Perhaps security. The detail did not escape Sarah's notice. Then another clue appeared. A black SUV pulled into the apartment parking lot, followed by a second and third vehicle. Several people remained near the cars, clearly waiting for instructions. Sarah's eyes widened slightly. This was becoming increasingly difficult to explain as an ordinary family situation. Noah noticed her expression and smiled. "Those are our cars." Chloe looked equally surprised. "You have 3 cars?" Noah shrugged. "Sometimes more." Sarah nearly laughed. Only a child could say something like that so casually. As the reunion continued, Ryan repeatedly thanked Sarah for helping his son. He listened carefully while Noah described everything that had happened. The sandwiches, the puzzle, the books, the apartment. Each detail seemed to matter deeply to him. Yet despite the relief of seeing father and son together again, Sarah sensed there was still something she did not know. The number of people involved, the vehicles, the attention surrounding the search. It all pointed toward a much bigger story. And within the next few hours, she would finally discover exactly who Ryan Parker was and why so many people had been searching for one little boy. After Noah gathered his belongings and prepared to leave, Ryan asked if he could speak with Sarah privately for a few minutes. Chloe and Noah stepped outside to look at the vehicles while the 2 adults remained in the apartment. Sarah expected a final thank you and perhaps a brief explanation. Instead, Ryan sat at the kitchen table and looked around the small apartment with a thoughtful expression. "Noah told me everything," he said. "The food, the books, the time you spent helping him, the way you made him feel safe." Sarah smiled modestly. Any parent would have done the same. Ryan slowly shook his head. "I'm not sure that is true." There was a sincerity in his voice that immediately caught her attention. He continued, "You helped a child you did not know. You spent money you probably needed. You opened your home without expecting anything in return." Sarah looked away for a moment. Hearing someone describe her actions that way felt uncomfortable. To her, she had simply done what seemed right. Ryan reached into his jacket pocket and placed a business card on the table. Sarah glanced at it. The moment she read the name, her eyes widened. Ryan Parker, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer. Beneath the title was the name of one of the largest corporations in the country. Sarah stared at the card in disbelief. She recognized the company instantly. It appeared regularly in business news, financial reports, and national headlines. "You own that company?" she asked quietly. Ryan smiled. "Technically, I manage it." Sarah looked at him again, this time seeing him through an entirely different lens. Suddenly, the private search teams made sense. The SUVs made sense. The organized effort to locate Noah made sense. This was not simply a successful businessman. This was one of the most influential executives in America. "I had no idea," Sarah admitted. "Most people do not when they first meet me," Ryan replied. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ryan's expression became more serious. "Can I tell you something honestly?" Sarah nodded. "I spend most of my life in meetings, airports, and boardrooms. I provide everything Noah could ever need materially. But when he talked about these last 2 days, he did not mention expensive things. He talked about eating sandwiches with your daughter. He talked about reading books. He talked about feeling welcome." Ryan paused. That was difficult for me to hear because it reminded me how much time I have missed. Sarah could see genuine regret in his eyes. Not the regret of a businessman losing money. The regret of a father realizing what truly mattered. "He loves you," she said gently. Ryan smiled. "I know. That is why finding him mattered more than any meeting I have ever attended." Outside the window, Noah and Chloe were laughing together near the parking lot. Ryan followed Sarah's gaze. "You helped my son during one of the most frightening moments of his life," he said quietly. "I will never forget that." Sarah had entered the week worrying about $40.62. Now she was sitting across from a billionaire who seemed far more grateful than impressed. And she had a feeling this would not be the last time their paths crossed. The weeks that followed felt almost unreal to Sarah. After Noah returned home, life settled back into its familiar routine. She continued working at the grocery store. Chloe continued attending school. Bills still arrived in the mail. Yet something had changed. Every few days, Noah called to talk with Chloe. Sometimes he spoke with Sarah as well. Despite the enormous differences in their lives, the connection they had formed remained genuine. Then, About a month later, Sarah received an unexpected phone call. A representative from Ryan Parker's company invited her to interview for a position with one of their community outreach programs. At first, Sarah assumed there had been a mistake. She had no corporate experience. She had never worked in an office. When she contacted Ryan, he explained his reasoning. "You understand people," he told her. "You understand families facing challenges because you have lived it. Those are qualities that cannot be taught in a business school." Sarah was hesitant. She did not want special treatment. Ryan respected that immediately. "Then earn it," he said. "Interview like everyone else." And she did. Over the following weeks, she completed multiple interviews and met people throughout the organization. To her surprise, she was eventually offered the position based on her qualifications and perspective. The job provided stability she had never experienced before. Better hours, better pay, benefits. Most importantly, more time with Chloe. Months later, Sarah found herself helping struggling families connect with housing resources, educational programs, and employment opportunities. Every day, she met people facing the same fears she had known for years. For the first time, she felt as though her experiences were being used to help others. Chloe thrived as well. She joined school activities that had once been out of reach financially. Her confidence grew, and Noah remained a regular part of their lives. Nearly a year after they first met, the two families gathered at a community event sponsored by Ryan's company. Children laughed nearby while families enjoyed a sunny afternoon together. Sarah watched Chloe and Noah running across a field with several other children. Their friendship had survived despite the very different worlds they came from. Ryan joined her near a picnic table. "Hard to believe it all started with one afternoon in the park," he said. Sarah smiled. "I almost kept walking." Ryan looked surprised. "Really?" She nodded. "I was worried about money. I had $40.62 left and more bills than I knew how to handle." Ryan looked toward the children playing in the distance. "And yet you stopped." Sarah followed his gaze. "I saw a little boy who needed help." For a moment, they stood quietly watching Noah laugh with Chloe. Then Ryan said something she would never forget. "The world talks a lot about success, but the people who truly change lives are often the ones who help when there is no reward waiting for them." Sarah thought about that first day. The bench, the worried child, the sandwich she could barely afford. Looking back, none of the important changes had started with money. They had started with a simple decision to care about someone else. And as the afternoon sun stretched across the field and the sound of children laughing filled the air, Sarah realized that the greatest